privilege to be here in Jaipur. I'm thrilled to address the Ananta Center's India-US Forum, and I'm thrilled to have you all here with me. Thanks to all of you, the business leaders, decision makers, and of course the students for being here. And thanks to our great team at the U.S. Embassy for everything that you guys do for our country. In the United States, we're proud of the deep connection between our nations, between India and the United States. Prime Minister Modi, as most of you probably know, was one of the first visitors welcomed into the Oval Office during President Trump's second term. And like President Trump, the Prime Minister inspires remarkable loyalty because of the strength of his belief in his people and in his country. Now, we're so grateful for Prime Minister Modi's hospitality, as well as the reception that he and everyone else in this country have given us on this first trip for me to India. This is my first time visiting the birthplace of my wife's parents, and she's, of course, in the front row there. There you are, Usha. Thank you. She's a bit of a celebrity, it turns out, in India, I think more so than her husband. But I haven't been here long, but already I've been fortunate enough to visit the Akshardham Temple. Did I pronounce that right, honey? I did okay? All right. With my family this morning, as a matter of fact. And last night, Prime Minister Modi welcomed me, Usha, and our 3 small children at his beautiful home. I've been amazed by the ancient beauty of the architecture of India, by the richness of India's history and traditions, but also by India's laser-like focus on the future. And those things, I think this appreciation for history and tradition and this focus on the future is very much something that I think animates this country in 2025. Now, in other countries I've visited, it sometimes feels like there's a flatness, a saneness, a desire to just be like everyone else in the world. But it's different here. There's a vitality to India, a sense of infinite possibility, of new homes to be built, new skylines to be raised, and lives to be enriched. And there's a pride in being Indian, a feeling of excitement about the days that lie ahead. Now, it's a striking contrast with too many in the West, where some in our leadership class seem stricken by self-doubt and even fear of the future. To them, humanity is always one bad decision away from catastrophe. The world will soon end, they tell us, because we're burning too much fuel, or making too many things, or having too many children. And so, rather than invest in the future, they too often retreat from it. Some of them pass laws that force their nations to use less power. They cancel nuclear and other energy generation facilities, even as their choices, the choices of these leaders, lead to more dependence on foreign adversaries. Meanwhile, their message to their friends, to countries like India, is to tell them that they're not allowed to grow. Well, President Trump rejects these failed ideas. He wants America to grow, he wants India to grow, and he wants to build the future with our partners all over the globe. And when I look at this audience, or when I visit this incredible country over these last couple of days, I see a people that will not be held back. Now, the most profound responsibility I believe that all of us have is not to ourselves, but to the next generation, to make sure we leave them with a better society than the one that our parents and our grandparents gave us. And this is the world that America seeks to create with you. We want to build a bright new world, one that's constantly innovating, one that's helping people to form families, making it easier to build, invest, and trade together in pursuit of common goals. Now, I believe that our nations have much to offer one another. And that's why we come to you as partners looking to strengthen our relationship. Now, we're not here to preach that you do things any one particular way. Too often in the past, Washington approached Prime Minister Modi with an attitude of preachiness, or even one of condescension. Prior administrations saw India as a source of low-cost labor on the one hand, even as they criticized the Prime Minister's government, arguably the most popular in the democratic world. And as I told Prime Minister Modi last night, he's got approval ratings that would make me jealous. But it wasn't just India. This attitude captured too much of our economic relationship with the rest of the world. So we shipped countless jobs overseas, and with them, our capacity to make things, from furniture, appliances, and even weapons of war. We traded hard power for soft power because with economic integration, we were told, would also come peace through sameness. Over time, we'd all assume the same sort of bland, secular, universal values, no matter where you lived. The world was flat after all. That was the thesis, and that was what they told us. And when that thesis proved false, or at least incomplete, leaders in the West took it upon themselves to flatten it by any means necessary. But many people across the world, and I think your country counts among them, they did not want to be flattened. Many were proud of where they came from, their way of life, the kind of jobs they worked, and the kind of jobs their parents worked before them. And that very much includes people in my own country, the United States of America. Now, some of you are aware of my own background. I actually didn't plan to talk about my background at all until last night at dinner while my children mostly behaved. We gave them an A- for behavior with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister said, I have one request. I want you to talk a little bit about your background. And so I wanted to do that. For those of you who don't know anything about me, I wanted to talk about it. I come from, and I'm biased, the greatest state in the Union, the state of Ohio, a longtime manufacturing powerhouse in the United States of America. My home specifically is a place called Middletown. Now, it's not a massive city by any means. It's not Jaipur, but it's a decent-sized town and a place where people make things, which has been a point of pride in Middletown for generations. It's filled with families like my own, some of whom called us hillbillies, Americans who came down from the surrounding hills and mountains of West Virginia, Tennessee, and Kentucky to cities like Middletown in pursuit of the manufacturing jobs that were creating widespread prosperity for families all across America. They came to Middletown in search of what we call back home the American dream. In Middletown, my parents raised me. My grandparents raised me. They taught us to work hard. They taught me to study hard. And they taught me to love God and my country and always be good to your own. My granddad, who I called Papaw growing up, he typified that. Late into life, he worked as a steelmaker at the local mill. And I know India has a lot of those. Papaw's job gave him a good wage, stable hours, and a generous pension. All that allowed him to support not just him and my grandmother, but his own daughter and grandkids with him. Now, by the time I came around, money was awfully tight, but he worked hard to make a good living for all of us. Now, I know Papaw and Mamaw were grateful for the way of life their country made possible. Their generation bore witness to the formation of America's great middle class. And by creating an economy centered around production, around workers who build things, and around the value of their labor, our nation's leaders then transformed their country and made thousands of little Middletowns possible. The government supported its labor force. We created incentives for productive industries to take root and struck good deals with international partners to sell the goods made in the United States of America. But as America settled into world historic prosperity it generated, our leaders began to take that very prosperity and what created it for granted. They forgot the importance of building, of supporting productive industry, of striking fair deals, and of supporting our workers and their families. And as time went on, we saw the consequences. In my hometown, factories left, jobs evaporated, America's middle towns ceased to be the lifeblood of our nation's economy. And the United States, as it became transformed, those very people, the working class, the background of the United States of America, were dismissed as backwards for holding on to the values their people had held dear for generations. Now, Middletown's story is my story, but it's hardly unusual in the United States of America. There are tens of millions of Americans who, over the last 20 or so years, have woken up to what's happening in our nation. But I believe they woke up well before it's too late. Now, like you, we want to appreciate our history, our culture, our religion. We want to do commerce and strike good deals with our friends. We want to found our vision of the future upon the proud recognition of our heritage rather than self-loathing and fear. I work for a president who has long understood all of this, whether through fighting those who seek to erase American history or in support of fair trade deals abroad. He has been consistent on these issues for decades. And as a result, under the Trump administration, America now has a government that has learned from the mistakes of the past. It's why President Trump cares so deeply about protecting the manufacturing economy that is the lifeblood of American prosperity and making sure America's workers have opportunities for good jobs. As we saw earlier this month, he will go to extraordinary lengths to protect and expand those opportunities for all Americans. And so today I come here with a simple message. Our administration seeks trade partners on the basis of fairness and of shared national interests. We want to build relationships with our foreign partners who respect their workers, who don't suppress their wages to boost exports, but respect the value of their labor. We want partners that are committed to working with America to build things, not just allowing themselves to become a conduit for transshipping others. Finally, we want to partner with people and countries who recognize the historic nature of the moment we're in, of the need to come together and build something truly new, a system of global trade that is balanced, one that is open, and one that is stable and fair. Now, I want to be clear, America's partners need not look exactly like America, nor must our governments do everything exactly the same way. But we should have some common goals, and I believe here in India we do, in both economics and in national security. And that's why we're so excited. That's why I'm so excited to be here today. In India, America has a friend, and we seek to strengthen the warm bonds our great nations already share. Now, critics have attacked my president, President Trump, for starting a trade war in an effort to bring back the jobs of the past, but nothing could be further from the truth. He seeks to rebalance global trade so that America, with friends like India, can build a future worth having for all of our people together. And when President Trump and Prime Minister Modi announced in February that our countries aim to more than double our bilateral trade to $500 billion by the end of the decade, I know that both of them meant it. And I'm encouraged by everything our nations are doing to get us there. As many of you are aware, both of our governments are hard at work on a trade agreement built on shared priorities, like creating new jobs, building durable supply chains, and achieving prosperity for our workers. In our meeting yesterday, Prime Minister Modi and I made very good progress on all of those points. And we are especially excited to formally announce that America and India have officially finalized the terms of reference for the trade negotiation. I think this is a vital step. Thank you. And I believe this is a vital step toward realizing President Trump's and Prime Minister Modi's vision, because it sets a roadmap toward a final deal between our nations. I believe there is much that America and India can accomplish together. And on that note, I want to talk about a few areas of collaboration today, how India and the United States can work together. First, perhaps most importantly, to protect our nations. Second, to build great things. And finally, to innovate the cutting-edge technologies both our countries will need in the years to come. Now, on defense, our countries already enjoy a close relationship, one of the closest relationships in the world. America does more military exercises with India than we do with any other nation on earth. The U.S.-India Compact that President Trump and Prime Minister Modi announced in February will lay the foundation for even closer collaboration between our countries. From javelins to Stryker combat vehicles, our nations will co-produce many of the munitions and equipment that we'll need to deter foreign aggressors. Not because we seek war, but because we seek peace, and we believe the best path to peace is through mutual strength. And the launching the Joint Autonomous Systems Industry Alliance will enable America and India to develop the most state-of-the-art maritime systems needed for victory. It's fitting that India this year is hosting the Quad Leaders Summit this fall. Our interests in a free, open, peaceful, and prosperous Indo-Pacific are in full alignment. Both of us know that the region must remain safe from any hostile powers that seek to dominate it. Growing relations between our countries over the last decade are part of what led America to designate India a major defense partner, the first of that class. This designation means that India now shares with the UAE a defense and technology infrastructure and partnership with the United States on par with America's closest allies and friends. But we actually feel that India has much more to gain from its continued defense partnership with the United States. And let me sketch that out a little bit. We, of course, want to collaborate more. We want to work together more. And we want your nation to buy more of our military equipment, which, of course, we believe is the best in class. American fifth-generation F-35s, for example, would give the Indian Air Force the ability to defend your airspace and protect your people like never before. And I've met a lot of great people from the Indian Air Force just in the last couple of days. India, like America, wants to build. And that will mean that we have to produce more energy. It's more energy production and more energy consumption. And it's one of the many reasons why I think our nations have so much to gain by strengthening our energy ties. As President Trump is fond of saying, America has once again begun to drill, baby, drill. And we think that will inure to the benefit of Americans, but will also benefit India as well. Past administrations in the United States of America, I think motivated by a fear of the future, have tied our hands and restricted American investments in oil and natural gas production. This administration recognizes that cheap, dependable energy is an essential part of making things and is an essential part of economic independence for both of our nations. Of course, America is blessed with vast natural resources and an unusual capacity to generate energy, so much that we want to be able to sell it to our friends like India. We believe your nation will benefit from American energy exports and expanding those exports. You'll be able to build more, make more, and grow more, but at much lower energy costs. We also want to help India explore its own considerable natural resources, including its offshore natural gas reserves and critical mineral supplies. We have the capacity and we have the desire to help. Moreover, we think energy co-production will help beat unfair competitors in other foreign markets. But India, we believe, can go a long way to enhance energy ties between our nations. And one suggestion I'd have is maybe consider dropping some of the non-tariff barriers for American access to the Indian market. Now, I've talked about this, of course, with Prime Minister Modi. And look, President Trump and I know that Prime Minister Modi is a tough negotiator. He drives a hard bargain.
Right. There
it's
is
one of the reasons why we respect him.
Some of J.D. Vance's speech from a few hours ago. Looks like 4 hours ago. J.D. Vance was live in India speaking. Only got a few things to cover here, hopefully. One I want to look at is from Secretary Kennedy, who's doing some amazing things. And I'm still a little burdened by how people just how the anti-Kennedy faction is treating him. But that's completely normal. You know that's going to happen. So, and good. This channel, the Secretary Kennedy, almost has 1 million followers. So I don't know if that means anything or not. So let's see what is going on. I'm going to play some of this from Secretary Kennedy. This is, he says, okay. This is 17 hours ago. Secretary Kennedy, we spend more today on healthcare than any other country in the world. Yet we have the worst health outcomes. Chronic disease is rising, and we're not getting our bang for the buck. Dr. Oz, as head of at CMS.gov, is going to change all that. Welcome to the team, Dr. Oz. CMS. What does CMS mean? CMS is the official for Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Oh, so they're not cutting it. Of course, they're not cutting it. That would be a very unwise decision. It is something that the media and some people, the fake news and the haters, would love you to believe that that is exactly what the Trump administration wants to do. But that is absolutely not true. What they're going to do is to make sure the money is not being funneled out and that the money goes where it should go. That sounds like a pretty good idea to me. So let's watch this together.
I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your Secretary for Health and Human Services, and today was a huge day for our department. We swore in my partner, my friend, my brother, Ahmed Oz is the head of CMS, which is the bulk of all of the expenditures for healthcare in our country. We spend more today on healthcare than any other country in the world. We have the worst health outcomes. Our longevity is decreasing dramatically. Our chronic disease is rising, and we're not getting our bang for the buck. And the Met's job as head of CMS is to change all that.
Mr. President, thank you very much. God bless you for leading our nation.
We're about to embark on a major modernization, a upgrade of the U.S. healthcare system. Certainly that one's parts of it that are paid for by the U.S. government. We're going to be able to modernize healthcare by making sure doctors and patients have all the information they need at their fingertips. We're going to be able to do this expeditiously using all the technology that's out there. We're also going to get serious about fraud. We're going to crush fraud, waste, and abuse. And by making it more efficient and by cutting out the fraud, we'll be able to deliver exactly what America wants. We need to get healthier. We have to get folks to realize that the main way that we'll get our healthcare system working better is to be healthier. Because what's the best way to use less drugs? Not need them. And so if you can actually take the steps literally in your life by walking, eat the right foods, do the things we talk about in the MAHA movement, then we will make America healthy again.
That's great.
Produced by the U.S.
And I
Department of
feel like
Finance.
the last month or so, I've been doing a lot on following more of what Kennedy is doing than what Trump is doing. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but I feel more compelled to follow the things that Kennedy is doing. I am following what President Trump is doing too, but for some reason, I find these last few shows we're doing a lot of Kennedy stuff, and there's a lot of Trump news out there. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. But moving on, this is from April 21st. Kennedy says, I have complete confidence in Dr. McCarry's FDA leadership to return U.S. FDA to its rightful role as an independent, ethical, and radically transparent agency. The American people deserve a regulatory body free from corporate influence and perverse incentives that have compromised its mission for far too long. And then we get a nice little clip here. This is from US FDA. Under Dr. McCarry's FDA leadership, the FDA is taking bold steps to restore public trust, removing pharma conflicts on advisory committees, refocusing on root causes of chronic disease, and charting a path back to gold standard science. Sounds like a pretty good idea to me. Let's watch a little bit of this. This whole thing is like 7 minutes, so I don't think I'm going to play the whole thing, but I'm curious to hear what the new head of the FDA is saying. I'm sure you are too.
People like Curtis Wright. He's not the only one to leave the FDA and go right into big pharma. Almost every commissioner does. Scott Gottlieb, he was under Trump. He was the FDA commissioner, went right off to Pfizer. He came on my show and tried to tell me nothing to worry about with any side effects as he's working for Pfizer. It's like, we know we can't trust these people. So A, what are we going to do about those people? And B, is there anything else we need to worry about? Because it's not just people who are at FDA and leave. It's also panels of big pharma representatives who oversee the process as a drug gets approved here at FDA.
When Curtis Wright approved the original FDA label, was there internal pushback?
Oh, yeah. Diane Snitchler emailed him that Purdue's less addictive claim sounded like bullshit.
What was Mr. Wright's response?
He said, actually, Diane, this is literally true.
So, Curtis Wright is the FDA medical review officer who approves an unprecedented label for Purdue, and then he goes and works for Purdue. So, do you think there's quid pro quo with Purdue to grant such generous wording?
Yeah, well, I get that it has the appearance of corruption, but it's possible there wasn't. What Curtis Wright did is the way the industry works. It's a revolving door, where as soon as people leave the government, they go and work for the exact people they were regulating for 5 times the money. And it's all legal.
What appears to be corruption is simply how the system works.
What, if anything, is being done about that?
Well, we have to do 2 things. Number one is we have to partner with industry and pharma to facilitate the process, to make it user-friendly and expeditious. We shouldn't be in a receive-only mode. We want American pharma companies to do well and companies that do business in the United States to do well. But the scientific evaluation needs to be independent. And that's why today we're announcing we are removing industry members, pharma members from FDA advisory committees. I was shocked when I learned that employees of big pharma companies sit on FDA advisory committees as members of those committees. So we're going to be replacing them whenever statutorily possible with patients and family givers, family caregivers. We are going to be inviting pharma companies to send representatives to the advisory committees, but they can sit with the rest of the public and watch and pose questions as the rest of the American public can. So,
so that speaks to it's not. It doesn't stop at FDAers leaving and going directly to big pharma to work pushing the drugs they just approved while government employees. It's also while the FDA is approving those drugs, big pharma right now has a role in pushing for it, in advising the people who are the decision makers. And so on that second piece of it, at least right now, you're stopping that.
We're stopping that for every committee where we can by statute, and we're replacing them with patients and family caregivers. And the idea is that there should not be a cozy relationship. There should be a user-friendly process for industry, but not a cozy relationship. Because let's be honest, a lot of people in the United States feel that the system is rigged. A lot of people feel that the relationship is too cozy between pharma and regulators. And so this is an agency that belongs to the American people. And so we can work with pharma and at the same time ensure that scientific evaluation process is totally independent. And on those advisory committees, the pharma and device members of those advisory committees will say that they're non-voting members. But that is a sort of a close club of individuals that has a running dialogue, and they meet and they become friendly. And it's okay to be friendly, but we need the scientific evaluation, the voting, to be totally independent. And so people ask, are you anti-pharma or pro-pharma?
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is we're pro-pharma, but our evaluation has to be independent. And we cannot have any more indications for chronic pain written for a drug based on a 14-day study where the regulator then goes immediately works for the company.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of thing that breeds distrust. And that's why people perceive that this agency, the FDA, has been captured by industry, and it is not captured by industry. It is owned by the American people right now.
How do we stop the first problem with all the FDA commissioners and the top head honchos doing their stint in government service and then going out to work for big pharma like they did in the Purdue Pharma case with Curtis Wright, and making 5 times more?
I don't know. We live in a free country. I do know some of these individuals, and they are good people. And they're all God's children. They're doing what the market incentivizes. But when it comes to their influence on the operations of the FDA, that is something that we cannot tolerate. We cannot have people who leave as regulators, go to the industry, and we've thought about an ethics pledge, we've thought about all kinds of things. It's non-binding because we live in a free country. You can't control someone after they leave an employer. But what we can do is create a culture here where people want to stay. We can ensure that people who leave don't have undue influence. And so many of the former...
I have a suggestion for you.
Yeah.
If somebody leaves the FDA and goes to work for one of the drug companies, then you should look back to see whether they were involved in approving any of that company's drugs during their tenure over the previous 5 years. And it should kick in an automatic review on that drug and the approval.
When I got this nomination for the job, I cannot tell you how many lobbyists, former members of Congress, the swamp reached out to me. This is the swamp. I mean, I was in the operating room, and the next day I discovered what the swamp was.
You were swampy, surrounded by the swamp creatures.
Surrounded by the swamp creatures, and immediately, this is how it happens. We want to help you with your confirmation. We want to write a letter on behalf of our company to the senators on your committee. We know these senators. We're going to talk to them if it's okay with you. And you know what I said? Don't talk to the senators. I don't want your letters. They're not for free. Those are obligations that then you feel indebted to return once you're in office. And I'd rather not get confirmed into this job than have those obligations.
Oh, right.
Classy.
And you were confirmed. You're the only Trump nominee that's had as many Democrats cross over to support you. You've gotten more than anybody, I think. Was it 56-44?
Yes, it literally should be nothing political about the FDA. We're talking about values. Look, Republican, Democrat, independent moms came out and voted for President Trump, and they believed in Secretary Kennedy's maha mission. There's literally nothing political about looking at the influence of food colors and ingredients and evaluating the GRAS standard and getting infant formula without seed oil and added sugar and rewriting our nutrition guidelines, which we're doing right now. These are the most apolitical things in society. Of course, you're going to have media try to spin things, of course, but I think people see through that.
I think that was a really good one. And he talks about those lobbyists, these swamp creatures. Once again, Kennedy picking the right person for the job, and the people who have no idea what they're talking about freaking out about it because they just don't like anything Kennedy does. They don't like anything Trump does. And it's really, I mean, we're 4 months in and it's really starting to agitate me. It's really starting to agitate me a lot more than I thought it would at this point, especially at this point being 4 months in, but it's really agitating me. And that's not on them. That's on me. They don't control my feelings. I do. If I don't, that's another problem. Moving right along, here is what Kennedy said also on April 21st. Thank you, Governor Little, for your leadership and commitment to MAHA. Brad Little. I encourage other governors to follow your lead. I want to read this, what Brad Little says, governor here. The MAHA movement is about promoting nutrition and exercise so all kids can thrive. Today, I signed HB 109 to ban candy and soda from the government's food assistance program. Idaho's children deserve more than these sugary and synthetic-filled products. Thank you, Secretary Kennedy and Secretary Rollins, for your leadership in making America healthy again. And thank you, Governor Little. Never thought I'd be saying that. Not one of my favorite governors, but I am happy that he made the right choice and signed that bill. One step closer, my friends. That's all we can do. One thing at a time. It is a lot of work. It's going to take a lot. Dr. Oz, great societies protect their most vulnerable. As such, CMS.gov will provide Americans access to high-quality care, especially to those who need our help the most, the young, those with disabilities, and our seniors. So a little pushback on the autism thing that Kennedy was getting, and it's pretty laughable. But I think a lot of people think that they're autistic, think they're on the spectrum and all this, and or ADHD. It's become way too common. So it will be nice to get some verifiable facts on it to see who really is, who diagnoses these things. But this is what you do with science. Science is ever changing. I did love President Trump's, the White House, where they released that lab leak story. If you have not read that, it's a very short read, and it's definitely worth it on whitehouse.gov. Just go there and search for lab leak. It is amazing, and you can totally understand why Biden had to give Anthony Fauci a pardon. Fascinating stuff. This is 52 seconds here at Dr. Oz.
Let me start with a simple premise. Every great society, everyone, has an opportunity to take care of its most vulnerable and treasures that opportunity. And we're great people, so we will do the same. As we enter the main building, the Humphreys building, where Health and Human Services is located, there's a placard of Hubert Humphrey, and it says that it's a moral opportunity, a moral obligation of government to take care of people in the dawn of their life, the kids, in the twilight of their life, the elderly, the mature, the seniors, and those in the shadows of life, those struggling with disabilities. We want to provide America with access to great care. We want to save the public health insurance programs of this country. That's what President Trump asked me to do when he took this position to administer the programs at CMS. Let me start with a simple premise. Every great society, everyone, has an opportunity to take care of its most vulnerable and treasures that.
So we're on the right path. I think that's pretty clear. America is on the right path with President Trump in office, with RFK Jr. there working on our health, the health of this nation. We are definitely on the right path. I don't know how anyone could think anything different. They're entitled to. I just don't get it. I'm going to play. I've been looking for any clips of this, so I'm glad that there is something out there. At the Tribal Self-Governance Conference in Arizona, I spoke about an urgent crisis, our broken food system. Too many Native American communities are being flooded with ultra-processed foods, fueling rising obesity and chronic disease. With my leadership, that's going to end. And he's had a love for the Native Americans. I'm sure he has a love for all human beings here. Let's watch this together.
Most of the tribes in this country now are living in food deserts, and there is a health crisis, a chronic health crisis on the reservation with heart disease, coronary disease, diabetes, obesity, etc. One of the tribes that is co-hosting this event, the Pima tribes, were 100 years ago among the longest lived people in the world. There was no obesity and no diabetes. And today they have the second highest diabetes rate in the world, almost 50% diabetes rate. Their longevity has dropped to 47 or 50 years old from 80 or 90 that it was 100 years ago. Interestingly, the Pimas across the border in Mexico are still among the longest lived people in the hemisphere because they're not getting the processed food. So processed food is poison for all of us, but it seems to disproportionately impact in Indian country. And if we're really going to change public health on the reservations and end this crisis, we need to address that, what's causing the crisis, which is the food system.
Okay, that was a great one. I think that's all of the new stuff on Secretary Kennedy's channel. I am waiting for this new. Oh, this is good too. I missed this one. I have not seen this. There's actually a few here. Okay, I'm going to play this one. Making sure our hospitals are operating effectively is critical to the MAHA agenda. I sat down with hospital CEOs and learned about the issues preventing optimal patient care, from perverse incentives to administrative costs. HHS.gov is committed to helping American hospitals provide world-class care that puts patients first, and under my leadership, that's exactly what they'll do. More great news. So this is how you do it. What Kennedy is doing, he's meeting with them, he's talking to them, he's not telling them, just throwing orders or throwing his weight around. He's digging deep in to see what the root problems are and to weed out the good and the bad and the ugly.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your Secretary for Health and Human Services. And today we had really an extraordinary, very informative meeting with hospital CEOs from all over the country, from rural and urban areas. These are smaller, nonprofit hospitals that are doing an extraordinary job at treating their patients. The real fulcrum of the meeting, and what I really learned from it, is about the perverse incentives that discourage these hospitals from treating patients and force them to spend the bulk of their resources on administrative costs. And we talked about very specific ways to save hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars annually just by small common sense rule changes that really could focus these hospitals on making America healthy again and giving real, authentic, and high quality patient care to their patients. And that's one of the objectives of this administration. And it's an exciting opportunity for us really to change the nature of healthcare very, very quickly.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
All right, another great one. I think there's just one more thing I want to cover here. Maybe two. Yeah, one, two, definitely two. And I looking around. 3, 2, 3. Okay. Definitely this is one. And this is just Kennedy talking here. This is from April 18th. I'm very grateful. Maximize this. Here we go. I'm very grateful to POTUS and DNI Gabbard for lifting the veil on these documents. The assassinations of JFK, RFK, and MLK were important crossroads that changed the trajectory of our country from an idealistic and transparent democracy to a dark and secretive autocracy. The release of these documents is an important milestone in President Trump's crusade to restore America as an exemplary republic and moral authority. Here's what DNI Tulsi Gabbard says here. Nearly 60 years after the tragic assassination of Robert F. Kennedy, the American people will, for the first time, have the opportunity to review the federal government's investigation thanks to POTUS leadership and commitment to maximum transparency. And so you can go to archives.gov/RFK and read this full thing. How long is this? Who knows? Let me see. Oh, that's just the press release. Okay. I just want to see how long the actual files are. How many files are we talking about here? Records related to the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. Here we go. President Trump signed Executive Order 14176, declassification of records concerning the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King on January 23, 2025. Records relating to the assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy that have been released will be available on this webpage and will be added on a rolling basis. So there you go. And here we go again. 10,000 pages of data, 229 PDF files. I'm just going to open up any one of these, any random one. Let's see what we got here. Department of Justice Records Administration Office. Material must not be removed or added to this file without approval of the records administration, blah, 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 da-da-dee-da. Let's see if there's anything here. And this is what you just never know what you're going to find. We're just hunting here to see what this is. All right. Tripoli, limited lawyer, public fanfare, publicly offered to defend Sirhan, called an embassy, state his fourth incoming trip, Department of Defense. So lots of stuff, as you can see. This is from the Attorney General, Director FBI. Assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy, Los Angeles, California. So that will be just one document there. I'm obviously not going to go too far deep into it, but I'm glad to see Kennedy at least responding to some of this. He hasn't really been responding to a lot of the released documents so far. Not that I've seen anyways. So it's good to see that he is responding to it. This will be the last one, I believe, and then I'll see if there's anything. I know there's something new with Trump, but I want to see what he's got going on. Secretary Kennedy, thank you, Sean Hannity, for letting me set the record straight. Bottom line, the more than 25% of people who have severe autism will never go on a date, write a poem, live independently, or have a job. We need to identify the exposures that are causing this epidemic and compensate the families of the injured. HHS.gov, under my leadership, will be unrelenting in assisting affected individuals in living up to all their potentials. This is a little longer one, 2 minutes.
Kids with autism, about 25% of them are nonverbal, non-toilet trained. They have all these stereotypical behaviors: head banging, biting, toe walking, stimming, and that population is growing higher and higher. So it's becoming a larger percentage. So we're seeing much more, many more cases that are now linked to severe intellectual disabilities. Let me say this: there are many kids with autism who are doing well. They're holding down jobs. They're getting paychecks. They're living independently. But I was specifically referring to that 25%, the group that is nonverbal.
That was clear. You were not ambiguous on that. You were clear.
Right. And you know what? The larger point is that the media has bought into this industry canard, this mythology, that we're just seeing more autism because we're noticing it more. We're better at recognizing it, or there's been changing diagnostic criteria. There is study after study in the scientific literature going back decades that says that that's not true. In fact, California legislature in 2013 asked the Mind Institute at UC Davis to look exactly at that topic. They said, is it real or are we just noticing it more? And the Mind Institute came back and said, absolutely, this is a real epidemic. This is something we've never seen before. And anybody with common sense, Sean, would notice that, because the autism, this epidemic, is only happening in our children. It's not happening in people our age. And if it was better recognition, you'd see it in 70-year-old men. And I'll say this, I want to be very careful when I say it, because I've never seen a person with full-blown autism. I've seen many people with Asperger's and, you know, on the spectrum who are my age. I've never seen anybody with full-blown autism. That means nonverbal, non-toilet trained. It's that you don't see these people walking around a mall because they don't exist in our age. Or they're very, very rare. They do exist, but they're rare, so rare that I've never seen one. And I've been around intellectual disabilities my entire life. But in our children's age group, they're everywhere. It's 1 in 20 boys. And in California, 1 in 12.5 boys has autism, and 25% of those look like that.
Wow. And that's sad. And it makes you wonder, is this just some type of coincidence, or are we talking about something more major? Well, you can be the judge of that and judge for yourself. As for me, I'm going to stick to what I believe and to what I know. And focus on Jesus, always focus on Christ. Before I go, obviously, got the new book coming out very soon, any day. Could be any day now. You never know. But the full release should be available very, very soon. One minor formatting edit that I got to fix in here. I'm waiting for that proof copy to come back. Once it does, then hopefully I'll be off to the races and moving on to the next book. But Kennedy and Trump, Greg Fernandez Jr., will be available very, very soon once this minor formatting issue is corrected. Well, I think that's about all I have time for. I do want to go and quickly look at some of the things that President Trump is saying. You know, he's always saying something interesting. Always has something going on Truth Social. Let's see what POTUS is talking about now. Oh, the Maine thing. That's a big one. We're getting into Maine. Reactions to President Trump's ending of paper straw report. Trump's Domestic Policy Council issues scathing rebuke on paper straw poppycock in 31-page manifesto. This is by Steve Robinson. I'll just read this here. Prepared in March 2025 by the Domestic Policy Council and released Friday, the report is as much a critique of paper straws as it is a policy statement against what Trump calls the Green New Scam. With characteristic style, Trump pledges to bring common sense back to beverages with plastic straws. I'm not a fan of plastic straws. Plastic is not good in general. So I don't know what the heck is going on there. Here's something else. President Trump says, I've just spoken with Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, relative to numerous subjects, including trade, Iran, etc. The call went very well. We are on the same side of every issue. A great new book by Dana Perino, a Fox News star and a very good person, is called I Wish Someone Had Told Me. The title says it all. Much to be learned about life and success. Get it now. I have agreed to the commencement address at two really great places. Really. The University of Alabama and West Point. Wow, that's pretty cool. Then we got some Easter Bunny funny stuff, the Easter egg rollout and all that. And there it is. Maybe I'll play a little bit of Trump at the White House. They did a whole thing here, so I don't know how much of this some of the play, but it's pretty good stuff. I'll play a little bit of it. This is from
Ladies
Sunday.
and gentlemen,
Sunday
the President of the United States and First Lady Melania Trump, accompanied by the Easter Bunny. Master Gunnery Sergeant Kevin Benier, accompanied by the President's own United States Marine Band, will now honor America with the singing of our national anthem. Oh, say can you see by
I
the
love this.
dawn's
I'm just saying.
early
Say
light.
anything?
And I've heard this band actually indirectly for 4 years and very directly now for 4.5.
Kind of weird.
And I like the direct method even better.
Okay.
But the Marine Corps band is very, very special. Thank you very much. What a great job. Thank you.
Let's see if he takes any questions.
Thank you.
Or is he just?
Aluminum steel, taking in a lot of money. More money than this country has seen. And that's just the beginning. I don't know yet. We're going to be briefed on it right now. We're going to try to look it out. Would you like to go? I don't know. I just have to look at the timing. We just
Yeah, funny is really weird. It's seem like a clown show. I don't get it. I'm back and forth on the Easter egg hunt myself.
So I will be giving you a full detail over the next 3 days.
Hard to
We had very good meetings in Ukraine, Russia. We had very good meetings actually on Iran too. We'll see how that goes. I was going to ask you about that too. What's the next step there? Next step is we need a little time. We had very good meetings on there. We had very good, and the tariffs are going very well. As you know, everybody wants to look at
I did like this. Okay, I can't really hear what he's saying, but I did like this here. Before I get to that, hey Catherine, how are you, my friend? Catherine says, I love plastic straws. However, paper straws bring me back to childhood when that was all we had. I say leave the straws alone. Let each person decide if they want paper or plastic. Nothing wrong with that. Just like grocery bags, right? Paper or plastic, whichever one that you like. I personally would just say no straws, but or at least if there needs to be some type of a warning sign, is it BPA free? What is in the straws? Do straws contribute to any health issues, things like that? But because I'm not sure, I've just decided to avoid straws altogether. But I understand it's not always possible, it's not always the preference, and sometimes it's not always, they can't just not drink out of straws. So I'm all for freedom of choice there. So the banning of the plastic straws, I think, is what Trump was concerned about, how they banned them. But now they're back. But yeah, paper straws, I don't know. That never really seemed like a good thing either. And I don't know if they have dye on them or what they have on them. So I just avoid them altogether as much as possible. The bunny. I don't do Easter. I don't celebrate most holidays. Yeah, I mean, when they take the focus off of Jesus Christ, then they kind of lose me there. So, but again, I wouldn't want to see Trump standing next to a person dressed up as Jesus Christ either. I just say avoid the bunny. Get rid of the bunny. It just has a weird look. Trump looks way too serious with that bunny. It's just funny to me. It's pretty funny stuff. So anyways, I have to have a straw. I dribble all down my shirt without them. See, there's some reasons why people do. People out of surgery need straws too, things like that. When we had a family member who had surgery, they could barely sit up, barely stand, had to have a straw. So I get it. There's just nothing funnier. That if I was the lamestream media, that's what I'd just pull up that image of Trump and the Easter Bunny. But they're avoiding it because they know what happened last year, where on Easter Sunday Biden had it Trans National Awareness Day or something on Easter Sunday. On Easter Sunday. That's almost as bad as the WWE putting on WrestleMania on Easter Sunday, which I was not happy about. Not very happy about that at all. I'm going to play a little bit of this one here. I thought this was pretty good to get you kind of riled up, get you ready for the day, for the morning, because it is going to be a wild week with some things that are happening this week. Get ready.
Over parental rights heading to the Supreme Court, where justices will hear arguments on whether parents should be able to opt out of their children of reading certain books that they have religious objections to. It all started back a couple of years ago when a Maryland court ruled rather than opt out of reading them, parents should withdraw their kids from the schools altogether, which seems extreme. Our next guest sued his California school district over one of these books. Carlos Encinas joins us right now, along with First Liberty Institute attorney Kayla Toney. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Steve.
Okay, so Carlos, your 11-year-old son is in class, and the teacher reads to them, "My shadow is pink." What's the book about, and what's your problem with it?
Well, this book involves a young boy who identified his gender different from his biological sex. And in the end, with his father, he ends up affirming his inner self and essentially identifies as a girl. And so our problem with that is that that obviously goes against our faith as a Christian, but
pedophilia.
This really started with my son coming home visibly upset. It wasn't just about forcing our son to read along with the book, but also he was forced to participate in activity with his kindergarten buddy. They have a mentorship program that lasts a year, and he was actually required to kind of be a mouthpiece for this content, sitting right next to his 5-year-old kindergarten buddy. They had to do an activity where they choose a color that represents their identity and chalk things with the 5-year-old. And I think that's what really upset him.
So given what's happened with your son's class, he was confused, it sounds like. And so he would come home and you would say what to him?
Well, I mean, he came home and said he was upset. I said, what I didn't know anything about this book. I had to Google the book, and by the author's own admission, this book is clearly about a gender identity.
Right.
But it's not just the book. It's they read the book, and they also forced the kids to watch a video narration of the book. And when you put the two together with the sights, the sounds, the colors, I mean, this is clearly targeting a very young audience with a message that you can, identify as any gender you'd like. And we're talking about, elementary school kids. So.
I get your concern. When asked for a statement, the school district said they don't comment on pending litigation.
Right. I get your concern. Yeah, there's a big concern. And like I said, we used to call this grooming. This used to be clear out and out grooming. And it really is. And that's what Catherine says. It really is. Just back in the early 2000s, people were arrested, jailed, and would have to register on the SO list for life. It's so crazy. And that's what I woke up to this morning. And it started me off in a very bad mood. And my mood hasn't gotten any better since then. So this is happy Tuesday.
Now you, Kayla, are a lawyer, and what's at stake here, if it's not just parents should be able to opt in or opt out of a book or withdraw your kids from school altogether. This is all about parental rights. And where do they stop in the classroom?
That's right. There's a lot at stake here, and that's why First Liberty stepped in to represent Carlos and his family. We're so proud to serve his family and other courageous parents around this nation who just want to know what their kids are learning in school, and they want to make sure that that doesn't conflict with their sincerely held religious beliefs. The First Amendment protects parents' free exercise of religion, their ability to raise their children according to their faith. And the First Amendment also protects kids and their right to speak or not to speak according to their own faith. Carlos's son was forced to share a message that he doesn't believe. It goes against his own Christian faith. And that's why we had to sue.
And that there should be the option, Kayla, for parents to be able to opt out of programs and lessons that the family finds objectionable, right?
That's right. School districts already allow opt-outs for many other things. In Carlos's district, students can opt out of biology dissection.
And who's writing these books? You can imagine the people that are actually writing these books. Catherine, as an author, you got to be a little more upset that they're writing these books and then saying, oh, it's not grooming, it's not telling them what to do, it's not forcing them to agree with anything, but these are kids. These kids should not be learning anything about sexuality at this age. That's my view. When they're 18, that's a whole nother issue. You could even argue high school, middle school. I'm still not. I believe middle school is like the weirdest time in my life sexually. So I think that is a very confusing time. Now kids are going through that at the elementary level because they're being exposed to it. I wasn't really exposed to anything, or it wasn't conscious in my mind, sexuality, until a much later age. But a lot of these kids seem like they're being exposed to this stuff at 5 years old. 5 years old, 5 to 10. This is what the Supreme Court is going to focus on. It's made it to this level because the public schools want to force parents. They want to force the children. They want the children to be forced to opt in to learn about LGBTQBBB, whatever nonsense. And that is just not right. That is just not right. And it's like, this is what happens. You give, a lot of people for a lot of years, well, we don't care, do whatever you want, that's your business and everything. But you give them an inch and they take a mile. This is going to happen. You could see all of this happening. I saw a sign today that was like, trans people have always been here. No, they have not always been here. No, they have not. It came from Adam and Eve. The devil has always been here. Maybe not always, but the devil is older than trans. And who do you think the father of this pedophilia and all of this LGBTQ garbage nonsense is? It is the devil. It is not natural. Homosexuality is not natural. It is not from God. It is the opposite. And what is the opposite of God? The devil. I don't need to tell people, I don't need to go and scream at people. If they want to do that, if they want to make those choices, that's between them and God. But I'm not going to be stopped from saying how I feel or saying what is right and what is wrong either. And I do not want my children exposed to any of this nonsense. And there are parents that can't afford to put their kids in a private school or in a Christian school. They have to use the public school systems. So this is where the main fight is, because this is for could be for any child. The public school or the private schools and the Christian schools and the charter schools hopefully are a little bit different. But right here is the front line. And we should know, they said we're not going to know until June, the Supreme Court case that they're hearing right now about parental rights, about parental rights. The court is going to tell us parents what we can and can't teach our children. This is complete nonsense. So I think because there's a more conservative, quote unquote, conservative Supreme Court justices, I think people are all kind of expecting it, that the Supreme Court is going to say the parents have full jurisdiction, and the parents should have full rights over their children. It's just crazy it's made it this far, but this is how evil this LGBT thing is. This is how evil these people are. And what's crazy is sometimes you'll come across people that are gay or that are, I don't know any trans myself, but people that are gay that feel the same way. They don't want this stuff taught to children. It's in some twisted way. Some of them even believe in Jesus Christ too. Like, wow, that's a good thing. Because Jesus can do anything. He can change hearts. He can change minds. I can't. But at the same time, I'm not supposed to rail against them or treat them any differently. Every person is a child of God. But I'm not going to say that lifestyle is right at all. And I'm not one, and much wiser people will, but I'm not one to say that it's okay. You can do whatever you want to do as long as you're not hurting anybody. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting your soul. You're hurting your relationship with our Creator. It's one of the worst things that you can possibly do. So that's just my view on it. There's only another 30 seconds left.
If they have a moral objection based on animal rights, but they can't opt out of teaching that goes against their faith. And that's a problem.
It is a problem. Let's see what the Supreme Court does now. Carlos and Kayla, thank you very much for joining us today to tell us that story. I'm Steve Ducey.
Yeah,
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe.
There are oral arguments happening right now on that, but that just really upset me this morning. As I woke up, I was really upset about it. And like I said, it just put me in a very bad mood. Maybe I will try some tacos later on. I started my coffee late, but so a lot of things happening, a lot of little clips there on Fox News. It's so hard to find any good news nowadays. So I wouldn't believe anything and everything Fox News says. But yeah, my shadow is pink. It bothers me so much when the way they are going after our children with the health, physically, mentally, spiritually, and we're just left here to gotta do something. So choose your battles wisely. And again, just within a few days, hopefully, the book will be out, Kennedy and Trump. And then I'm already moving on to some other ones and already scrapping some other projects already. So God bless you all. Remember, Jesus Christ loves you. And until next time, I will see you very, very soon.